welcome to UMT TV. I'm Mahnoor Khan and this is the Lawyer's Desk. Today we're going to continue with our very exhilarating and very interesting topic, the fundamental rights. And learning at this topic with us is Sir Asad Abbas. Thank you for joining us. So, sir, we were continuing about what are fundamental rights and how they serve us. Now, I would like to know more about how gender and age differentiates with us in these rights.
Well, there are certain rights which have been given to the women, and that rights cannot be claimed by a man. Similarly, there are certain rights which have been given to the adult which cannot be given to a child. Like if you say that a certain quota has been fixed in a certain jobs for the adult, you cannot say that a child under the age of 80 can apply for that job. Similarly, if an admission to a certain university is allowed to be given to the children under the age of 18, any person who is above age of 80 cannot claim to have admission in that university. So it depends that there are rights differ from age to age, from gender to gender, but they are fundamental rights, and in their capacity, in their classes, in their discrimination, they are fundamental right, and they have given to the respective genders.
But sir, even with our age, some rights are taken away from us. For example, slavery.
Yeah, you can say that no man should be a slave for anyone. We need to understand here that all time we actually praise the Western values, Western culture, Western rules and regulation. We need to keep in mind that it was Islam who actually first time banned the slavery and gave a lot of right to the slave person. Before the era of Islam, a slave were treated as animal. They were not given proper food, proper nutrition. They were sold. After the Islam, they were given so many rights. Even though the concept or the slavery was not abolished altogether, but they was actually regulated, and certain rules and certain laws were enacted in the era of Islam.
But sir, still in Pakistan we can see many children are used for child labor.
Yeah, you can say that because here we see that certain mafias are working in order to generate certain profit out of these slavery concept. They actually kidnap children from the rural areas, from for area which are far away from the urban areas, and they bring all these children and spread them on the street or on the roads in order to generate the money. So this is the problem. But in institution or in your country, slavery as a principle is banned. You cannot slave any person openly. They are beggars. They are begging because they are children and they are somehow, have been kidnapped. So saying that your country has allowed slavery and begging is one thing, and in your country slavery and begging is going on, two different concepts. So state as an institution, forbids or bans or disallows slavery, but it's going on, and there are certain rules and regulations which should be implemented by the government. That's true.
They are implemented, right?
They are try to be implemented, but they are not implemented in real sense, because we can see a lot of children are on the roads. They are begging. They are showing their different distorted organs in order to attract the people on the road to take some money as a beggar. So they should be implemented in real spirit. But you can say that in real spirit they are not being implemented, and there are a lot of things to be done in future as well.
Okay, so are they in progress?
Yeah, they are in progress, because but now the government is trying to ban it properly. There are certain laws which actually forbids begging or making someone slave. Yes, they are Child Protection Act, which actually forbids anyone to make your child as a beggar. There are certain laws which forbids that a child under the age of 80 cannot be put on to certain work. even though they are allowed to work as a part-time, but they cannot be, allowed to work as an adult. So there are certain laws, but when we talk about the implementation, we see there's a lot more to be done.
So if they actually go to court and say we're actually being forced to beg.
Well, here the system is very complicated. You need to have a lawyer in order to get your rights implemented, in order to get relief from the court. So this has to be, done in a proper manners. Children, poor peoples, people who are, not able to afford the lawyer's fees, they should be given a lawyer by the state, so that they cannot feel any sort of limitation or hindrance in their way to approach to the court. So this is the area where the government need to work. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask, the developing and developed countries, basically they differentiate. So why are their laws more implemented in developing countries and not much more in developed countries? Are they more aware in our developed countries and not in developing countries?
Well, you can say this is one of the reasons, but I believe there are certain other reasons. Like here we are, going through a process of evolution where peoples are getting some awareness about their rights. Courts are actually trying to implement their laws. In developed countries, there were time when they were not fully equipped. Their courts not fully aware regarding their rights. But with the passage of time, they improved. And similarly, we are trying hard to improve as well.
So does the discrimination also play an act over our laws? Because in developed countries, we find not more cases for discrimination, but more in developing countries where the rights are not given because of the discriminating partner.
Well, you can say that in developed countries, even then, as I mentioned earlier, there was time when the fundamental rights of human rights were not implemented properly. But with the passage of time, they improved. Similarly, here we should also create awareness to the people. We should also, be ready to give evidence to the court, because here is not culture. If anything happened in this room, no one would be able to, give evidence before the court as a witness, because we feel that why should we indulge in
because
such
a
in society culture. So
yes,
we need to change the mindset as well.
Is it changing?
Yeah, I think with the vibrant media and courts, giving relief to the ordinary people, we will improve with the passage of time if we keep this track as well.
We actually initiate the whole of the media to all the people who do not know about our rights too, like the people who are poor or do not have the education.
Yeah, this is the responsibility of the government. But as the individual, we should also impart our knowledge towards the people who are under us, people who are working are at home, our offices. So I think there was a time in the developed countries as well, people were not aware. Similarly, the state as well as individual, as we as individuals should also endeavor in order to impart the knowledge to the people or the people who are under us. Like there are certain people who are working at my home, there are certain people who are working in my office, there are certain girls and females who are around me. So I should also give them a sense of protection, a sense of awareness. So this is how we can move as a nation further.
Okay. So basically you're trying to say that we are in progress to provide every right to every
when we compare our society with the developed country, then we can say we are in a process of being developed.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that Islam has a very important role in actually diminishing slavery and has provided a very baseline to protect our rights. Could you provide a more explanatory answer to that how human rights and the Islamic rights are connected? Are there any differences?
Well, as I told you, even before the Islam, there were certain fundamental rights, but they were only for, just for mentioning that. They were not being implemented in the real sense, like we study the history of Arab. So it was Islam who actually, in the real sense, implemented the fundamental or the human rights. First time Islam told or forbade to the people not to bury their babies if they are, baby girl, because they prefer to have a baby boy. So it was Islam who for the first time abolished the institution of the slavery, who actually formulated the concept of slavery. It was Islam who actually elaborated the concept of fighting during the war. Even if you are fighting or waging a war, you have to keep in your mind the fundamental rights or the human right of the people. Even after winning the wars, there was an open secret that Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam made declaration to the peoples. Look, if you are enemy, but now we have finished this war, you are here as a slave. If you teach any of our children, you will be free. You will be free to take your liberty in your own hand. You will be free to move around. You will be free to start your own work. In lieu of that, what you are supposed to do is to teach our children. So we can see that with one thing, Islam was using in different direction. At the one direction, it was being equipped the children of the Muslim regarding their education. On the other side, it was providing fundamental or human right to the slave or the person who have been taken inside the prison as a prisoners on account of the war. So we can see that Islam played a very fundamental and the basic role regarding creating awareness about the fundamental right or the human rights.
Apart from slavery, are there any other examples you could provide for the Islam providing a very diverse rights to us?
Well, we can mention here the Misake Medina. That was the basic document, which was between the Muslim and the non-Muslim. Even the non-Muslim were provided so many rights. They were allowed to have their own businesses. They were allowed to have the education. They were allowed to lead their life the way they wanted. So it was the Islam who actually gave them the concept. While here we talk about about the secularism. It was the first document which curated the understanding regarding the secularism. Even in a Muslim society, all the non-Muslim were accommodated. But in lieu of that, against that, they were supposed only to give jizya, only to give a certain type of tax. And after paying the tax, they were not even compelled to take part in the wars. They can be protected, they can live a peaceful life in the Muslim society. So all these concepts were actually taken by the West and forbidden by the Muslim. So we need to keep in mind there's everything in Islam. We just need to study them and understand. That's all.
So our rules and regulations and rights are provided by the Quran.
Yeah, that's.
Are there any differences you can actually subject to us from the Constitution right now, and what we are actually provided from Islam?
Well, as a Muslim society, we when our country was got independence from the Western society, we actually took some of the values from the West, but we did not forget to take all the value which have been given by the Islam. So when we see the chapter 2 of the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan 1973, we see that all these rights are actually all rights which have been mentioned earlier in the Quran or Sunnah or in different concept of Islam. So we took a lot of things from the Islamic values as well.
And did we add these concepts to our constitution?
Yeah.
We did.
That's.
Could you provide an example?
Yeah, like the slavery again, like the liberty to have your own business, like the liberty to have education, like the liberty to have the property. All these concepts
and
are
for
actually
for the women's too.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you provide different cases from your own personal life, from your own different cases that which actually example away these fundamental rights?
Well, when I initially started my practice as a lawyer, in a very initial years, I had a lot of cases regarding the kidnapping of person without adopting the due process of law. Mm-hmm. Investigating agencies, police, army, and different other institutions can take any person for the purpose of investigation, but they have to take that person in accordance with law. So one of my clients' brother was missing for last 2 days. He came to me and said, look, my brother is missing. Then I filed a petition before the High Court. Okay. And eventually High Court issued summon to the concerned SHO, and concerned SHO came to the court and said, I actually was suspecting this guy, that is the reason, but court categorically stated in its order that without adopting the due process of law, you should not have retained this person more than 24 hours.
Okay. So could you provide your insight, your perspective on fundamental rights to our audience, and leave a message, please?
Yeah, but we need to have a lot of study. We need to understand that every person is given certain fundamental rights, but we are actually reluctant to get them enforced on account of our certain mindset or on account of our certain social values. Every person should be vibrant, should be aware about their rights, and we also talk about very openly about our fundamental rights, because without having these human rights, we cannot be called the human. That's it.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for this very intriguing message. My name is Mahnoor Khan, and this is the Lawyer's Desk.